So you did watch Ghostbusters Afterlife then, just recently. What were your thoughts on it? Because I know
Yes,
my thoughts
hi.
because I watched it in the theater.
Yes, hi, I'm Andrew. I'm showing up for the interview you're conducting about the movie Ghostbusters Afterlife. Thanks for having me. Um, my opinion, I will
Yeah,
say
I
that
want
I
to know your
enjoyed
opinion on it.
it. I'm going to be honest. I'm just generally a very anxious person. And whenever I go into any sort of remake, reboot, or long-awaited sequel, I almost get anxiety watching the movie. It's a very big flaw of mine because when I sit and watch it, all I think about is people like Adam, who's on, who's talking to me right now about this. And I can't get past the idea that everyone is going to have a problem with this. I can't just sit and enjoy the moment. And what I will say is watching Ghostbusters Afterlife, as much as I thought about it pretty much every second of the movie, um, I wasn't, I don't know, it did enough to pull me away from being overly concerned. So that tells me that most people, I think, will be okay with it, not love it, not feel like it's a true successor to the only two Ghostbuster movies. But as somebody that grew up with the cartoons and enjoyed the hell out of them, and as somebody that, of course, loved the first two movies, I thought it actually was good. I enjoyed um, really a lot about it. And, I don't know how much we want to spoil about it, Adam. It's just,
Well, no, I when I first watched it, I admit I was mainly going in with apprehension because of all the other, whether it be Bill and Ted 3 or all the other, here we're going to do a sequel decades later. Um, you know, I was very apprehensive about it going in. And I was mainly looking forward to what we saw in that last bit of the movie, right? I wanted to see the original Ghostbusters show up, and I was wondering how they were going to do that and
right.
how were they going to pay tribute to Harold Ramis, and were they going to do that, do him justice and do it in a good way, and they did, and I was very happy with that, and I
You were
think,
happy.
be, yeah,
Ugh. You should have just told me that, like, because you saw it before me. You just said, hey, by the way, I'm not going to spoil anything. I was very happy with it because it would have made my experience watching it a lot more enjoyable and
but
stress free.
but
Because all I think
because of
about
the
is how
fact
much you're going to hate things when I watch.
But I was very critical though of everything leading up to that moment because of that's what I was anticipating, right? That was what I was looking forward to was the original Ghostbusters showing up. And I think I got after the first viewing of it, when I saw it in the theater, um, I didn't give enough credit to the build up to that moment. And I felt like at the time I'm like, well, I feel like they could have done something new. They could have they retreaded back onto original Ghostbusters movie too much. And then um after a rewatch, I thought about it and I thought, well, it actually makes sense bringing the original Ghostbusters in and them having this connection to the villain that they battled in the first movie made much more sense than if they had created a whole new villain and the original Ghostbusters showed up, because I think all the fun quips and little tropes that they were calling back to.
Are you a god?
Ray? Oh, come on, Ray. Yes.
They wouldn't have been able to do, and it would have felt more like just them showing up for a cameo and less attached to the movie than ultimately they were, because they were again fighting Gozer. There were still little things I took issues with, but for the most part, overall, I think they did a good job with the movie, and I think the girl playing Egon's granddaughter, she did a fantastic job.
Yeah,
I mean,
Phoebe.
she really was the highlight of that movie in a lot of ways. Paul Rudd was good in it, don't get me wrong, but she was absolutely who you were focused on, and she did an amazing job leading that movie.
Why should you never trust atoms? Because they make up everything.
Yeah, what I liked about her performance, Phoebe. So I remember watching it and looking her up immediately, like, who is this? Her name's McKenna Grace. I'm sure anybody that somehow found this video would definitely know who she is, because you must really love Ghostbusters Afterlife if you found us. But I at first I thought, we're going to be doing a whole, like the whole performance is going to be based on how can we pull off Egon's quirks and this and that. And I was irritated at first because I saw it right away. I don't know if other people did. I don't know, but it didn't take long for me to go, oh, she's naturally pulling this off. This just works. She's her own character. She's Egon's granddaughter. This works. And yeah, so yeah, absolutely pulled off well. I really enjoyed it. Look, is it I'm not the type I let me just put this out there right now. I am not the type of person that watches any sort of spin-off, reboot, again, remake. I don't stack it up to the originals, and maybe that's not good, right? Like I think there's a certain I don't know. You watch a movie that is supposed to be designed to have some influence off of its predecessor. I feel like you're asking to be judged against it, and therefore should be delivering in a way that can fulfill that expectation. So, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't know. I watch these movies and I try to look at them as, how do they work as a standalone film? Does it work?
Well,
and then I go, now how did we connect things? Did we do a good job? And
see, I do it a little bit differently. I start off with,
I know you do.
if it's a reboot, I look at it of, did they truly bring something new to this, or did it feel like it was a cash grab where somebody just said, let's try and make some money off of this? And, did they have a good reason or a good, like, when you talk about A Star is Born, that you've got like 4 versions of that movie, and it, every version seems to work because the story it tells works well, reimagining it in, each new generation. But then other movies feel like a cash grab. And there were definitely some cash grabbiness to this, right? This little Stay Puffs, the only reason Stay Puff was in the first movie was because it popped into Ray's head when asked for their destroyer.
It just popped in there.
What? What just popped in there?
I tried to think.
Look!
No! It can't be.
What is it?
It can't be.
What did you do, Ray? Oh, shit.
It's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
That's the reason Stay Puff was in it. The reason they had little mini Stay Puffs in this was merchandising and throwback and cash grabbiness. Okay. That was it.
Everything you just said right there, that's the voice in my head when I watch these movies now. That's what this channel has done to me.
The channel or me?
You, but the channel has been the conduit, obviously, to hear that. Like, I'm watching this, I'm like, Adam is going to hate this. Like, I'm already, like, everything is like, just, yeah, Adam's going to be so irritated by this. And then there are times where I'm like, oh, I really enjoyed that. That means Adam's going to definitely hate this.
And I had hopes for this one to begin with because, Ivan Reitman's son, Jason Reitman, was directing it. All, other than Rick Moranis, everyone was returning for at least some small part in this movie. They're trying to at least honor it. I can, try and go in with much more of an open mind than I probably went into the 2016 Ghostbusters movie, where that felt like very gimmicky and a cash grab idea to me. Honestly, they did a great job of paying tribute to Harold Ramis. Even at the end, when right before the credits start and they said for Harold, I think they did a great job. I think not making his ghost speak, and not pulling a bunch of audio from previous stuff or anything like that to try and make it work.
Grand Moff Tarkin voice or mouth movements, just feeling inauthentic.
Yeah, finding someone who sounds kind of like Harold Ramis to pretend to be Harold Ramis or whatever. I think it worked having him silent, and the deep fake worked well enough. I think they did a good enough job on the deep fake that it was convincing enough for me that it worked.
His family approved that, by the way. They were all for it when they heard about how it was going to be executed, and I think they were very happy with it from what I had read.
I love some of the little throwbacks they did, when the other Ghostbusters showed up, and the throwbacks to the first movie. And I really enjoyed the first after credits scene with Bill and Sigourney, because I was wondering as the movie was going on, like, when's Sigourney going to show up? I know she's in this. She said she was in it. And then she shows up in that first after that mid-credit scene, and they're having fun with the little the cards and the shocking machine, and she's shocking Bill after, you know, testing him on the cards.
I can't believe you used to shock your students.
Between us, I only zap the guys. It was flawed science. I know that now. I admit that.
And that was just, it was a great, amazing little throwback to the beginning of the first movie. That was just fantastic.
It's a couple wavy lines.
Sorry, this isn't your lucky day.
You know, I'd mentioned the cartoon series. There were things in that they did that they referenced that weren't in the films. In the films, did you ever see in there where they were able to come out like a sidecar and start unloading off of a seat that would
No.
like, right.
No,
that was the
car
cartoons.
never did that. Right.
That was the cartoons. That's how much of a sort of all-encompassing love letter this movie was to the actual IP, like the actual characters, beyond just the films, like just the idea of Ghostbusters.
I really love the moment when she calls, you know, the Ghostbusters number from jail, and she asks, you know, tells Dan Aykroyd she's calling about Egon Spengler, and he goes,
Egon Spengler can rot in hell.
He died last week.
Dan Aykroyd did such a great job of like that expression of,
Oh, man. No kidding.
I wish I hadn't just said what I just said. And like all that anger that you saw in his performance, that just kind of like, I'm now remembering my friend who's now gone. And I felt like that was such a genuine thing, because, you know, with Harold being gone and everything like that, I felt that was such a great reaction and great moment to, you know, Ray finding out that Egon's gone. And I really enjoyed that moment in the film. And, you know, on the second viewing and everything like that, I felt like it hit me even more so in the second viewing than it did the first viewing. And I thought that was just a great scene. And they did such a great job of like him being surprised with the phone call disconnecting. And that's with Egon being gone and her making a comment going, well, don't you think maybe he was right? And her saying, he was my grandfather, before the phone hangs up. You know, it gives you a good idea that I almost feel like, yes, Ray and the others might have gone ahead and decided to go out there. And I think that moment and that scene just worked really well for me.
I mean, yeah, whenever Ray is finding time to not be listening to podcasts, they made it out there, which, by the way, terrible character name, but I got past it. It worked, the character itself. But I love that little, because you're talking about that moment, like of Ray just realizing, like, you know, the weight of losing his friend and kind of setting aside the differences. That's when a cameo is not just a gimmicky cameo. That's when, like, you actually are providing some sort of catharsis, some level of, okay, this character is actually dealing with something that
weight.
not
It
had
just
any
provides
closure on.
weight to it. Yeah, it just provides weight to it.
And I feel like in the limited time that we had with them, we mentioned Bill Murray as Peter, like in his moment there, and with Ray and Winston, we haven't really talked about yet. But with Ray, the fact that they threw in that he was listening to this podcast, it's like his one listener or whatever subscriber, and
Really found its voice in the 46th episode.
he was the conspiracy theorist. He would absorb anything and consume anything that would draw his attention to, you know, what are we not aware of? What's out there that we're not, you know? And yeah, it worked great.
The one inconsistency, Ray said that
Some actor bought up most of Tribeca and we lost the firehouse. It's a Starbucks now.
but we see in the after credit scene, the car being pulled into the firehouse, and it just looks like an abandoned Ghostbusters, parking garage, as opposed to the coffee house that we were led to believe that's what happened to the firehouse.
I have to research that one. I feel like that seems too glaring. Maybe they just meant at some point in the 90s that happened. I don't know.
And I was very happy that they were very limited on flashbacks to the old movies. Because one of my issues with obviously the new Matrix movie is way too much relying on video footage from the original Matrix movie, and that bothered me a lot. And I was really happy in this movie that they didn't do something like that. They weren't constantly filling in with flashbacks, and every time they wanted to talk about something, they were cutting to showing you that or anything like that. I was very happy about that. They kind of drew on the idea that you hopefully will remember this movie to appreciate all the little callbacks to it.
As soon as you started mentioning their restraint on callbacks, that was the first thing I thought of. It was Matrix. Don't bring up Matrix. There's a spot inside of me, deep inside of me, that I promise you, it's gonna come out, and I'm gonna talk about that Matrix sequel. It's not right now. I'm swallowing.
And that's a prime example. That's a prime example of that type of movie. That movie is what makes me apprehensive when I go into a movie like Ghostbusters Afterlife, right? Is when I see stuff like what they did with Matrix 4, and I'm like, an unnecessary sequel. It was an unnecessary sequel. So I was so worried that this was going to be one of those unnecessary sequels that ultimately does more harm than good to the franchise. So yeah, I was very happy that they did a good job with Ghostbusters Afterlife on not making it a gimmicky, we're just doing this for a cash grab. It actually felt like the people making it liked the franchise. They wanted to, pay tribute to it, but at the same time, enjoy this world, this Ghostbusters world. And it felt like that. And that
it's the same reason we love Cobra Kai, right? Like in a way.
Right. Absolutely.
It's coming from a place of true, like these are fans. These are people that want to do it justice, for better or worse, warts, flaws, whatever you want to say. As long as the flaws you can overlook because you're like, listen, like they get it. And this Ghostbusters Afterlife, they got it. They understood. Again, they told their own story. Maybe it's not for everybody, but you cannot deny that they didn't get it when it comes to what makes Ghostbusters what it was. And we're gonna end this review because you still bring up Matrix 4. I'm about to pit out. Like I'm sweaty just thinking about that. Like I want to blow up about that movie, and you've ruined all of this, Adam. I can't talk about it. I can't even think about Ghostbusters Afterlife. Why did you bring up Matrix 4?
So now I have to figure out ways in future videos to drop Matrix 4 just to trigger Andrew. He'll be going through PTSD, it's
not even PTSD. It's just seeing red.
But no, this movie was done well. I actually really enjoyed it, and I wanted to tell people to watch it without but at the same time, like I said, my first viewing, I was too judgmental on the first part of the film because of the fact I was so much looking for how they were going to pay tribute and how they were going to bring the others in, and they hopefully wasn't just going to be some cheap cameo, to the point that I didn't give the rest of the movie, I think, as much credit as it deserved. And on a second viewing, I definitely elevated my opinion of the first 75% of the movie, as far as my thoughts on it, because of the fact that since I now knew what I was looking for, it was I could just sit back and enjoy the whole movie for what it was. And so yeah, I think it was done well. This is, if you're going to revisit a franchise, like we said, this has got flaws, but this has got a better blueprint for how you're going to do it.
I generally think anytime I watch anything that pays tribute to anything really 90s, especially 80s and earlier, it's going to be a nightmare for you. And I don't even want to hear about it, let alone be in your head. So here we are. What a treat. What a treat.
Thank you for watching, and till next time.
According to this morning's sample, it would be a Twinkie 35 feet long, weighing approximately 600 pounds.
That's a big Twinkie.
Oh no, we're screwed. We're so screwed.
What do we do? I say we fight.
What? No, just check the glove box.